Hello, my name is Mandy Buchanan, and I'm the owner of Go Deeper Bible Studies blog, and I am passionate about teaching people more about the Word of God and helping them learn biblical truths that they may not necessarily learn in church. In this series, we are going to be having a look at the feasts of Israel. If you missed our first series on biblical typology in the Old Testament tabernacle, I will leave a link to that in the description below. Today we will start by looking at the Feast of Passover, which was the first feast held in the month of Nisan, and it is described in Exodus 12. From verse 1, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron in Egypt, "This month is to be for you the first month of your year. Tell the whole community of Israel that on the 10th day of this month each man is to take a lamb for his family, one for each household. If any household is too small for a whole lamb, they must share one with their nearest neighbor, having taken into account the number of people there are. You are to determine the amount of lamb needed in accordance with what each person will eat. The animals you choose must be year-old males without defects, and you may take them from the sheep or the goats. Take care of them until the 14th day of the month, when all the members of the community of Israel must slaughter them at twilight. Then they are to take some of the blood and put it on the sides and tops of the door frames of the house, where they eat the lambs. That same night they are to eat the meat roasted over the fire, along with bitter herbs and bread made without yeast. Do not eat the meat raw or boiled in water, but roasted over a fire, with the head, legs, and internal organs. Do not leave any of it till morning. If some is left till morning, you must burn it. This is how you are to eat it, with your cloak tucked into your belt, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. Eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. On that same night I will pass through Egypt and strike down every firstborn of both people and animals, and I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. I am the Lord. The blood will be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. No destructive plague will touch you when I strike Egypt. This is a day you are to commemorate for the generations to come. You shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord, a lasting ordinance. For 7 days you are to eat bread made without yeast. On the first day remove the yeast from your houses, for whoever eats anything with yeast in it from the first day through the 7th must be cut off from Israel. On the first day hold a sacred assembly, and another one on the 7th day. Do no work at all on these days, except to prepare food for everyone to eat. That is all you may do. Celebrate the festival of unleavened bread, because it was on this very day that I brought your divisions out of Egypt. Celebrate this day as a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. In the first month you are to eat bread made without yeast, from the evening of the 14th day until the evening of the 21st day. For 7 days no yeast is to be found in your houses, and anyone, whether foreign or native born, who eats anything with yeast in it must be cut off from the community of Israel. Eat nothing made with yeast. Wherever you live you must eat unleavened bread. Then Moses summoned all the elders of Israel and said to them, "Go at once and select the animals for your families, and slaughter the Passover lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop, dip it in the blood in the basin, and put some of the blood on the top and on both sides of the doorframe. None of you shall go out of the door of your house until morning. When the Lord goes through the land to strike down the Egyptians, he will see the blood on the top and sides of the doorframe, and will pass over that doorway. And he will not permit the destroyer to enter your houses and strike you down. Obey these instructions as a lasting ordinance for you and your descendants. When you enter the land that the Lord will give you as he promised, observe the ceremony. And when your children ask you, 'What does the ceremony mean to you?' then tell them, 'It is the Passover sacrifice to the Lord, who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt, and spared our homes when he struck down the Egyptians.' Then the people bowed down and worshipped. The Israelites did just what the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron. At midnight the Lord struck down all the firstborn in Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on the throne to the firstborn of the prisoner who was in the dungeon, and the firstborn of all the livestock as well. Pharaoh and all his officials and all the Egyptians got up during the night, and there was loud wailing in Egypt, for there was not a house without someone dead. There is a lot that we can say about the Passover, but let's start by having a look at the Passover Lamb. We are told in 1 Corinthians 5, verse 7, that Jesus was our Passover Lamb. And in Isaiah 53, verses 7 to 9, it describes Jesus as our Passover Lamb. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. For who of his generation protested? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgression of my people he was punished. He was assigned a grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, though he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. And we see too that in Jesus' life a lot ties up with the festival of Passover. At the festival of Passover, the lamb was chosen on the 10th day of Nisan. And on the 10th day of Nisan, Jesus rode into Jerusalem on the back of a donkey and was celebrated by the people on what we now term Palm Sunday. And he was proven as being spotless and without blemish, which is what the priests were and the people were looking for in that time between the 10th and the 14th while they were examining the Passover lamb. They wanted a lamb that was spotless and without blemish. And we're told that Jesus was spotless and without blemish. And time again we see people at the time of Jesus' crucifixion saying that they found no fault in him. The Jewish historian Josephus also tells us that the preparations for the Passover at the time that Jesus was crucified began at 9 a.m. in the morning because there were so many lambs to be slaughtered. And this was the exact time that Jesus was hung on the cross, according to the Bible. And he breathed his last at the same time that the lambs were to be crucified. And so we see here perfectly that Jesus was the Passover lamb. Another important point in the Passover sacrifice was that none of the lamb's bones were to be broken. And we're told in John 19 that none of Jesus' bones were broken. When the soldiers came to break the bones of the men hanging on the cross, they saw that Jesus was already dead, and so they decided not to break any of his bones. And that was when they simply put the spear into his side to check that he was dead. But none of his bones were broken in order to line up with the prophecy provided by the Passover lamb. As I say, there's a lot that can be said about the Feast of Passover, and we won't go into all that detail here. But we do have a blog post on it, which I will link to in the description below. And I'm busy planning a Udemy course on the subject of the Feasts of Israel, where you can also learn more about it. And I will be sure to link that as soon as I have released the course. I trust that you've enjoyed today and that you will join us next week as we discuss other feasts of Israel. Thank you and goodbye.